for you today. And sorry if I'm not looking straight at your eyes at the moment, but just know that I am just, since I don't have a professional producer quite yet, we have to do our sound check as soon as we go live. So as you're coming in, a like is going to go a long way. And also let us know if you can hear us okay. But today we have a very special guest for you, Spencer McDuffy. And when I say that this agent moves, he absolutely moves at a blistering pace. So I think that you're going to really pick up on that as we get going. But before we go further and I go into a more formal introduction, Spencer, I need to thank you. We've been battling our calendars, it seems like, for years, but we have finally made this happen. I really appreciate you coming on the channel. How are you?
I'm good, man. I really appreciate you having me on the channel as well, and looking forward to dropping some knowledge today that will hopefully be helpful for all the agents out there.
I love it. I love it. Well, Spencer, today, the reason I wanted to have you and invite you on the channel was because there's a lot of new agents out there. I believe even NAR said there's 50,000 agents that were added to the roster here in the last 12 months. I may be off by a couple of thousand in terms of the count, but we know that agents come into the industry, and we know that unfortunately a lot of agents exit the industry very shortly thereafter. I think what's the statistic that runs around out there? 85% failure rate
Yeah, I
within
thought it
the
was even
first.
more than that. Yeah, something like 90% or something.
So it's drastic. It's drastic. And that's something that we really want to tackle on today, because when somebody enters the industry, they're entering the industry from all walks of life. Some are almost legacy agents where their parents or their family members, they grew up in that culture. So they know what an open house is. They know what a lead is. They know a lot of information that has positioned them to at least have a better shot at success. But then we also have the agents that, I got laid off from my job, I got fired, I just don't want to do this anymore, this, that, or the other, that go into the industry and are completely approaching it from scratch. So that's really where we wanted to start off. What should your next 30 days look like? But before we actually break open into that, and thank you so much for sharing the outline, the blueprint that you have is awesome. We'll share with the audience how they can get access to that here shortly. But before we get into that, we want to learn more about you. Tell us a little bit about how you got started, a little bit of background to know who Spencer McDuffy truly is.
All right. Well, I had a background in accounting, actually, before I got into real estate. I got my real estate license in about September of 2018. And I actually, at that time, quit my full-time accounting career. I dropped out of the Master's of Accounting program at UTD. And I think you'll see that accounting background has followed me a little bit through real estate, because we'll be talking about some of that information here today. But I started in 2018, no real background in sales. I was very new, but in my first year, I got a coach, I got a mentor, and took advantage of a lot of great content out there, like Jaime's channel and Connor's channel and some of the other great YouTube channels that are out there. And in my first year, did about 44 transactions. Second year, did about 67 transactions. Third year, did about 88 transactions. And this year, hoping to break over 125 transactions. And today, I want to just share with some of the agents out there some of the things and tips that I picked up along the way, especially through mentoring and training new agents out there, seeing them make mistakes over and over and over again, and try to get you to where everything is set up appropriately up front, so that you're not trying to catch up later down the road, fixing the things that you could have easily avoided if you just, were aware of what you needed to do in the beginning.
No, that's awesome. So folks, you heard that correctly. Can you go through those stats again? What was your first year like, second year like, and third year like?
Yes, it was 44 transactions my first year, 67 transactions my second year, and 88 transactions my third year. And I'm now going into my fourth year into real estate. 90 to 95% of the business that we do is all listing focused. So I'm a big listing agent. Don't really work a lot with buyers. I know a lot of people will find that amazing, but it was just part of the plan that I put together. And what I'm going to show with you guys today on the blueprint as part of it is how to build a listing-based business, and also to build out systems and processes around what you're trying to accomplish, so that you can, have the same success that I've had, or whatever success hopefully it is that you're looking to have yourself.
Folks, you heard that correctly. So when I told you that this man moves, this man moves. So you see, just in the first year, the tremendous success that he had. He became a 1% agent in the 1%ers. just from his first year. Now, you would think, okay, that's cool, which is awesome. It's amazing. It's incredible. There's a reason that he got to that level. But if you go to the next year, it's a 50% growth. If not, it
Right.
might be a little bit more, a little bit less. I'm not great at math. He's the former accountant. But when you go to the next year on his third year, another 50% growth. So that is incredible. That's something that you're taking the, I'm guessing, and actually I'm not guessing, I'm kind of piggybacking on knowing you personally, but also in what you just mentioned. You've successfully taken past success in terms of, hey, I got you into a new house, or I got you out of the house that you were asking me to sell, and you were able to leverage that relationship and go out and get some babies out of that, meaning other transactions. So that's
Absolutely.
something that not a lot of agents, even the high volume agents, are successful at doing. Before we break open into the blueprint that you have for us on your first 30 days, what it looks like, tell us how you're able to do that. What have you stressed on making one success multiplying to 2, 3, 4, 5 different
Yeah.
transactions from one?
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that. And I've actually got videos on my channel that talk about how to turn one transaction into three. So be sure to check out my YouTube channel. But I love that you bring it up. I think one of the things that I always like to tell new agents or people that might have a background in different areas is to always build from a success up. Don't build from the ground up, build from a success up. So if you've been a personal trainer for the last 20 years and you're new to real estate, your approach might look a little bit different than somebody who had a background in accounting who's now in real estate. Or if you maybe had a background in sales, there's going to be things that you have that you can capitalize on that not every single person can have. But whenever I got into real estate, I focused a lot on outbound prospecting. I was a big telephone prospector. I still am. I say I was. I still am. I was really hammering hard on the expireds and the for sale by owners. That's really how I cut my teeth in the business. And then very shortly thereafter, after getting some success and some notoriety, specifically through using strategies like Facebook and social media, I was able to start to leverage some success in my sphere of influence and start to get some repeat clients. Now, guys, keep in mind, I've only been in real estate for 3 years, so I don't have just tons of people who want to move over and over again, and that's short of a time frame, but it does happen, and it's starting to happen more and more. But particularly just from being successful and showing that your success out there on social media, you will start to see more referrals and more inbound type of leads, as opposed to just only focusing on how I started on the for sale by owners and like the expired listings and other outbound prospecting sources.
Thank you for the breakdown. That's awesome. Before we move forward, hey, what were the YouTube channels that were helpful in your development? Is a comment that we're getting over from Facebook. And as you're coming in, a like is going to go a long way. And also any questions that you have about really anything, drop them down below. We'll make sure we cover them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't even know we were doing this live, by the way. So that's cool. So thanks for everybody who's watching right now. So the big channels, I'm a huge podcast guy. Before I got into real estate, I was, typing away on my keyboard, doing debits and doing credits in the accounting world. The great thing about accounting is you don't really have to talk to people on a daily basis all the time. I could put in my headphones and I could work 8 hours a day, which means I could listen to podcasts 8 hours a day. And that's exactly what I did for the year leading up to becoming a real estate agent. My absolute favorite podcast is the Real Estate Rockstars podcast with Pat Hyben. It's a fantastic podcast. I always listen to the episodes that had a title, something along the lines of, brand new real estate agent sells 50 transactions in its first year. Those were the ones I listened to. And I think I listened to every episode that had a title similar to that before I got a license. And so the Real Estate Rockstars with Pat Hyben is an amazing podcast, super action oriented, very much heavy on meat and potatoes, not a lot of cliches in there, specific and actionable advice. So that podcast is amazing. But then switching it over to YouTube, if you're wanting to see some things with some video content, I'm a huge fan of Brandon Mulrenin. He does a lot of training on outbound prospecting for sale by owners, expired listings, absentee owners. He puts out really great content, and some of the content that I'm sharing today has definitely been influential from stuff that I've seen from him. But also, you got to go further back. You got to get the Tom Ferry, and if you're really wanting to kind of hone into your true fundamental sales skills, you've really got to go all the way back to the Mike Ferry sales system and the training process that Mike Ferry has. It's not sexy, it's not glamorous, but if you don't have a background in sales, starting with the old Mike Ferry YouTube content and his YouTube channel is going to get you the fundamental basics that you can then later start to build on with things like social media and other things that we'll talk about today.
Bam. Check out this man. He rocks it out. And sorry, I'm distracting you probably, Spencer, because we were talking a little bit about this. This is not recorded on Zoom. This is recorded on a different software, so it's Ecamm. If you're on Mac, it's phenomenal, almost too phenomenal to where we get things like this. So I can't wait to drop that on once you continue bringing on some heat. So as you have any questions, please feel free to drop them down below. We have Della in the house. Della, fantastic agent out of the Dallas-Fort Worth market, so right down the street from you. Spencer, let's get into it, though. We've been beating around the bush, but let's talk about the 30 days. What do they need to look like? Because it's clear that you are beyond your 30 days, but also it's very clear that you took the 30 days that you jumped into real estate in and maximized it. There's no way that you couldn't have, given the fact that you're talking at a 45, almost 50 transactions within the first year. That just doesn't happen all that often. So talk to us a little bit about what agents that are getting into the industry absolutely need to take care of.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to that point, I mean, my very first month in the business, I think I set 8 listing appointments and went on 8 listing appointments and took 4 listings within the first 30 days in the business. So I think I do have some information to share with you guys that should be valuable. And I brought on several new agents who, had struggled at other brokerages or teams or whatever, and they weren't able to kind of get things going. They came on with me and we were able to find some success. So I'm going to share with you guys some of the big pitfalls that I see, particularly with new agents, but also remembering back, 3 or so years ago, whenever I started on things that I wish I would have implemented sooner to help me to really just be even better and more successful than I really was. So the big thing that I think we hear a lot about people all the time. The first portion of this blueprint is going to be focused on treating your business like a business. And you hear a lot of people say this, but it's a cliche and you don't really know exactly what it means. How am I supposed to treat my business like a business? Well, there's some things, especially coming from an accounting background that I came in, there's some things that you can do in the fundamentals of structuring your business and structuring how you're going to receive your paychecks, how you're going to manage your money and your cash flow that need to be considered before you start to really build up this business. Right now it's tax time. I'm actually working on my taxes right now. All the new agents are filing their tax returns for the first time. They're switching from W-2 and getting refunds and understanding like now I actually have to pay taxes. So for the agents that I coach and train, hopefully you have the taxes that we've been talking about all year put back and set aside for you to do your tax returns. If you haven't been putting money back and putting that aside, hopefully you'll start to do that quick because it's a painful lesson that you don't want to learn more than once. But the very first step that I'm going to say, if you're a brand new agent, the very first thing that I would recommend that you consider doing as far as treating your business like a business in the first 30 days is we need to look at your financial structure in your business and make sure that we have a good operating structure to work from. And what I mean by that is very simple. We need to make sure that we have adequate accounts that have different duties or the accounts have different basically job descriptions. So I'm going to bang out a couple of the job descriptions here for these different accounts. And we want to make sure we set this stuff up early. The first one is going to be making sure that you have a business operations account. Too many real estate agents, including agents on my team, they come in, they're running their commissions through their personal account. They're paying for business expenses. They're paying their personal rent or their mortgage payment out of their personal checking account. This is not the way that you want to set up your business. And the reason why is because when it comes down to do your taxes at tax time, you have all your expenses intermingled, which makes it much more difficult from an accounting perspective to determine how much money did you make and how much money did you spend and what is your actual profit, because you have personal expenses intermingled with your business expenses. So guys, it's really not hard. Go to your local bank, wherever you bank at now, open a new checking account. It doesn't even have to be a formal business account. It just has to be an account that you use for business. Sometimes we run into issues with agents wanting to start business accounts, but they need an EIN number. It doesn't even have to be that sophisticated or fancy. Just open an account where your commissions come in and your business expenses go out. And that's the only job of that account. That's a great way to start in the first 30 days of your business on getting everything up and running. Piggybacking off of that, we want to make sure we open a business tax reserve account. I like to think of this as kind of like a business savings account. And basically what we're going to do is put back a certain amount of our commission checks every single time into this business tax account so that when the end of the year comes around and it's time to do our taxes, we've been saving all year long and we're not surprised by the amount that we have to pay. I also like to recommend a third account called a temporary investment holding account. This is an account where I'll put money aside every single month until I get around to transferring it into my longer term investment vehicles, like a brokerage account, which we'll talk about a little bit here today as well. But this is just a place to stash money temporarily basically like on a monthly basis or a 30-day basis. It sits there, and at the end of the 30 days, you make a quick transfer to a more longer term type of an account for your longer financial future. Obviously, you want a personal checking account, personal savings account, so that you can pay yourself after receiving some commissions. Obviously, you want to have money to pay your rent and to live on and buy groceries. I also think it's wise. I don't think you have to do this in your first 30 days, but I think it's wise to consider doing a real estate savings account, so that if you actually do find a deal for $60,000 and you know it's worth 120 as is, you're going to go ahead and buy that deal, and you don't have to go liquidate your long-term savings, your retirement account. You don't have to go into your operations account. You have basically a deal account, and when that deal comes up, which they always do, you're going to be ready to purchase it. And the final account that I'm going to recommend, and this is a big one, this is really thinking long-term about your future here, and I'm a kind of a financial nerd, and I think that's probably a little bit evident by everything we've talked about so far, but I recommend that every new agent open a standard brokerage account for their long-term savings. Unfortunately, in this business, 401ks aren't really an option. We don't really have anybody really looking out for our best long-term interest. It's on us, and it's not that hard or not that difficult to go ahead and set up a brokerage account and make sure that you're taking care of your future self, and not just only thinking about how you're going to make money today. So that's kind of a brief overview of the setting up bank accounts. Jaime, do you have any thoughts or anything to add after that kind of first initial thought?
Man.
No, it's a lot. So I want to make sure I'm not kind of glossing over anything or missing anything on that.
No, that is perfect, dude. So no, I think that was incredible. As you could see me, I was struggling to keep up. I could easily say that we have a professional producer, but I'd be lying to the audience, so I'm not going to do that. I think so. Just a quick reminder: what we're looking at are your first 30 days in real estate, and what Spencer's been covering has been the setup and things that you absolutely cannot delay on. As we know, we'll get to it tomorrow. We'll get to it tomorrow quickly becomes we'll get to it next month. We'll quickly get to next year, right? So we're establishing this out early because oftentimes the deadline that we give ourselves is actually not a deadline that we give ourselves. It's actually the government. So it becomes, from a tax perspective, you can do the extension beyond April 15th, of course. However, at the end of the day, if you want to stay in business and out of jail, you eventually have to get this done, right? So those procrastinators out there, including myself, this is something that we want to get established early. And I understand that, well, I'll do that when I get money. Well, when you get money, we don't know when that's going to be. Let's just be honest, right? So establishing it out now is going to be a great way for you to have that financial discipline for the future, right? So that's something we're going to look at. And as a quick reminder, if you're not following Spencer on Instagram or on the socials, please take care of that right now. And he has this blueprint available to you because you're here. So really appreciate Spencer making that available to everyone. Now, in order to get that, you're going to need to DM him on Instagram, and you see it on the screen right now. So make sure that you DM him and let him know, hey, I was on the live stream. Could you send me the blueprint? So he has a 30-day blueprint that you absolutely want to take a hold of right now. And also, he's got an incredible YouTube channel where he helps agents do just this: get into the business quickly and be wildly successful. He already mentioned the level of success that he had very early on, and he just continues to scale. I have the privilege of knowing Spencer for 4 years now, 4 years now. Just when you got into, right as you got into real estate, so we've got a mutual connection. So he's absolutely on top of things. Make sure you check him out on Instagram and also on YouTube. But with that being said, I like the flow. Let's keep it going. Let's see if we have any questions. We have Della in the house. Bam, great info. Della is on it. I appreciate everybody on. As you have questions, please feel free to drop them down below. But take us to that other level, Spencer.
All right, I'm going to hit on the next three things that are all designed to kind of make sure that from day one you're treating your business like a business. And I do know we only have maybe like 10 more minutes, so I'm going to keep it kind of high level so that we can get through everything that we need to get through. But again, as we're thinking about kind of the accounting structure of your business, and being a business person and former accountant myself, there's a saying out there that accounting is the language of business. So if you are treating your business like a business, it's really good to consider like the accounting aspect of what's going to happen with your business, how money's going to flow through it, and make sure it all makes sense. It doesn't have to be complicated, but you do need to sit and make sense of it. And you probably need to consider having a person in your corner. We talk a lot of times, we hear about for sale by owners and people who want to do things without the help of a professional, but then real estate agents turn around and do their taxes without the help of a CPA. And every year they try to review how much money they made without the help of a bookkeeper, and they don't have a real profit and loss. So we don't want to kind of be that person who kind of looks at the FISBO, with a side eye, and then we turn around and we don't do our taxes with the professional assistance. So from day one, guys, we spend a lot of money in this business, and there's a lot of things that you can purchase that are not going to be good uses of your funds. Maybe Zillow leads or whatever it is that's out there that's costing you tons of money that you're not seeing a result from. But investing in your systems and structures is always a good investment, in my opinion. And one of the very first things I'd recommend that you should do whenever you start out is hiring a bookkeeper from day one. And I know that may sound like way too much. It may sound too aggressive, but it's not that expensive. And I do think it's one of the best returns on investment that you can get, because one, they're going to help you to set up your actual chart of accounts. They're going to help you to classify all your expenses monthly. All those business accounts that we created in step one, they're going to link them to an accounting software. When you swipe your debit card or enter your debit card information for your business account, that's going to link back into your software, your QuickBooks account, and your CPA or bookkeeper is going to be able to review and classify those transactions to make sure that they're classified as either a software or marketing expense or whatever it is there. Nothing that we really care about. We just care at the end of the day that it's getting done, and somebody who knows what they're doing is actually consistently doing this. And it's not something that we couldn't do on our own, but even from personal experience and having been an accountant, it's something that doesn't get done if you don't hire somebody to do it, exactly like what Jaime was just saying. So we're going to want to make sure that bookkeeper is classifying those expenses on a monthly basis. And the big thing that we are going to be excited about and are going to want to do is look at that profit and loss statement every single month. This is going to help us to understand how much money we're making, where are we wasting money, where are we spending money. And guys, this is not a huge expense that's impossible for you guys to implement. Everything that we've talked about right now, most of the accounts and stuff are free to set up. And then your bookkeeper is probably only going to cost you about $300 a month, maybe about $3,500 a year to have somebody who's got your back. And the big result is at the end of the year, when it's time to do your taxes, that CPA or bookkeeper who's been doing everything for you all year long, they give you all the information. You've been doing it all year long. You're ready to rock and roll. All you need to do is do some quick information at the end, but you're basically 90% of the way there. Most of the stress is already taken care of. It's off your plate and life is feeling real good. Which brings me to my next point, guys. Mileage is a huge thing. So before you get out there and start driving around buyers, driving around, going to listing appointments, putting out signs, going to Home Depot, make sure you get in something like a Mile IQ, because you're going to want to track that mileage. And even if you do have a good bookkeeper, they're not going to be able to track your mileage for you. So you want to make sure that you get your account set up, get a solid bookkeeper, and have a plan in place for your mileage. Once you do that, and then we'll switch over to the kind of second phase that's not so much about treating your business like a business. It's developing a plan to direct your dollars on what you want those dollars to do. And I like to think of my dollars as an army, and every soldier has a job, right? So I'm going to make sure that I allocate every commission that I earn. I want to know exactly where that dollar is supposed to be going. So for me, that's why I have all these different accounts that we talked about in the beginning. One, I'm going to make sure that I'm putting about 25% back in my tax reserve account for every single commission. I make a check, 25% of that goes into my tax reserve account. I make a check, 25% of that is either going to go into my short-term savings, which is just going to be my personal savings account. It's going to go towards debt reduction, or it's going to go into my long-term savings, which is going to be something structured like a brokerage account that you can get at Fidelity or Vanguard. The big thing with real estate is people forget about the future, and we need to be putting back. If we're paying the IRS 25% with no questions asked, it's my opinion, we should be paying ourselves the same fee, if not more, that Uncle Sam is getting, because we have to look out for ourselves, not just pay Uncle Sam his portion. Obviously, another 25% is going to go to your personal checking for things like groceries, rent, gas, and then finally, another 25% of that is going to go into your business operations account. So we've got 25, 25, 25, 25. We split those checks up, and that check that you made that was $10,000 and you're feeling rich, now all of a sudden you realize that those dollars have several different jobs to do, and that's going to keep you motivated. That's going to keep you hungry because you didn't really actually get $10,000. You got 2,500, and the other whole bunch of the amount that's left has a job to do, and that job is not to just sit in your bank account or be wasted on things that don't make sense. So that's kind of my beginning into treating your business like a business. And then I put together some information on what you can do to actually go out there and create some income. So now that we've got all the systems and processes in place, the income, we can now switch over and actually make some money and talk kind of about the second phase of everything. So any questions on that stuff?
All right, so we have bam, great information from Della. So as questions come in, please feel free to drop them down below. So we're getting ready to go into the business acquisition. So we've been covering the structure very eloquently. So thank you so much again, Spencer. Quick reminder, make sure that you are following Spencer and DM him for the blueprint. So he's got a 30-day blueprint for where he's covering. I know he's going incredibly fast because he's got a commitment and I've got a commitment, and we want to be respectful of your time. So he's got all of this broken down. I'm actually looking at it right now, and I should have been doing this a long time ago. So I'm learning a lot of things along with you. So we have the right man for the job here. So Spencer, continue. You're on a roll. So remember to DM him for the 30-day blueprint. Everything is spelled out. I mean, I'm just going to go down and checklist everything for
right. And I agree with you. I mean, I'm not saying that I started all this stuff from day one, but if I would have had a mentor who would have told me all this stuff, I would have been very appreciative, because the learning curve is deep when you're 2 years in and you're trying to set this stuff up. So I don't recommend doing that. Learn from the people that have come before you and do it the right way, and your life will just be so much easier. But from now, now we have our structure set up, and we're going to kind of focus on the lead generation or the business acquisition part, as Jaime said. And so the big things I want to say overarchingly is, one, we need to have clarity on what it is that we're trying to accomplish. What are our goals? And we need to ask ourselves critical questions like, how much money are we looking to make? How many properties do we need to sell? How many days per month do we actually plan to work? And in my opinion, when I say planning to work, I don't mean just doing things. I mean actually outbound prospecting, talking to buyers and sellers, or going on listing appointments. That is my definition of working. Showing a buyer or answering a phone call or answering emails or running a CMA. Those are not things that I consider work. Work, in my opinion, is talking to sellers and setting listing appointments. So how many days do we actually plan to work? What skills do we need to develop and obtain so that we can actually go out there and set listing appointments? Who do we need to talk to? And what obstacles am I already confident that I'm going to face? And what can I do to make sure that I get around those? So that's kind of where we're going to be looking at. Those are the critical questions. And you want to have clarity on those goals, because those goals are going to develop, or then going to determine what you do next and how you're going to go out there and how you're going to run your business. So the next thing I'm going to recommend that you guys always do is really dig into the how, which is developing your lead generation business plan. And how are you going to hit that goal of getting to 50 transactions or 100 transactions? And I think the very first thing that people tend to overlook a lot is defining what an actual lead is. We're talking about lead generation, but what is a lead? Too many people think anybody that wants to buy or sell is a lead. That's not true. I'm going to challenge you guys to, in the first 30 days, commit to your definition of what a lead is. And in my opinion, when you're new in real estate, that should be somebody who wants to buy or sell real estate in 6 months or less. Anybody who wants to buy in a year or 2 years or sell, I don't think that those are leads. I think those are just people, and that's great, but not probably somebody who needs to be clogging up your database and your nurture campaign. It's probably somebody that you just need to let go and spend more time looking for people who are on a shorter time frame, because our goal is to make money, obviously, as quick as possible. Once we identify what those leads are, somebody, in this case, building a listing-based business plan, who wants to sell in the next 6 months, how are we going to find those people? Well, we need to identify some potential lead sources. So that's going to include your expireds, your for sale by owners, your for rent by owners, absentee owners or investors, your sphere, circle of influence, social media, and professional networking for referrals from people like CPAs, attorneys, contractors, roofers, people like that. These are the traditional real estate lead buckets. And when you're new, I think you need to develop your lead buckets, define what a lead is to you, and then put together an aggressive campaign to go out and work these lead sources so that you can identify leads and learn how to convert those leads into actual listing appointments. The way that we'll go out and the strategies that we'll implement to actually do that are going to include, obviously, prospecting over the telephone, potentially door knocking, direct messaging on social media, using mailers, dinners, and lunches, and doing content creation like we're currently doing right now, and putting that on our calendar and living on a schedule so that we're out there consistently knowing what we're trying to accomplish, whose help do we need in order to accomplish it, and then what are we going to do to get in front of those people to make sure that we're accomplishing everything that we're setting out to do. So I know I'm going super fast, guys, but I'm just giving you a brief overview. DM me for the full blueprint. It's not a problem. I'll send it over to you. The next thing I want you guys to look at is committing to an effective schedule that's listing focused. Too many new agents are out there trying to build their business working with buyers, and I think it's a mistake. It's going to run you ragged. It's not going to be successful for you, and you're not going to build the business as big as you want it to be. If you do have really big goals like me, I don't think you're going to build a business doing 75 transactions a year, working exclusively with buyers, or even 75% with buyers. So we want to focus on listings, and we want our daily schedule to reflect that appropriately. So to give you guys a quick breakdown on what that schedule might look like, from 7 to 8 a.m., especially when you're a brand new agent, you should be role playing. That's going to include role playing on how to set appointments with expireds, how to set up appointments with for sale by owners, how to set appointments with your sphere of influence, and particularly focusing on your listing presentation, because the big mistake agents make is they focus on setting appointments. They get an opportunity, they get an appointment, they go on the appointment, and they have no idea what to say once they get there. It's almost like practicing. It's almost just like, I don't even know. It's just failing to prepare for what it is that you're actively working for. If you spend all week looking for an appointment and you have no idea what to do when you go on an appointment, that's not going to make a lot of sense, right? So 7 to 8, we're practicing our skills and role playing. From 8 to 11, we're going to be prospecting for the lead through the lead sources that we talked about, using the lead strategies that we talked about before. So expireds, for sale by owners, telephone prospecting, door knocking, things like that. Then from 11 to 12, we're going to do some hot lead follow-up. From 12 to 12:15, we want to do some tracking and make sure that we're actually being productive, hitting our contact goals that we have set. From 1 to 3, after lunch, we're going to focus on preparing for any listing appointments that we've had. And then from 4 to 6, we're actually going to go on listing appointments and get listing agreements signed. And obviously, if you don't have an appointment to prepare for or an appointment to go on, you're going to default back to the morning schedule, and you're going to continue to make calls to the leads that you have decided that you want to work. So we're getting close to the end, guys. Once you commit to having a really strong schedule, I know I'm going super fast again. Shoot me a DM for the blueprint. Once we have this really set up, what we're going to do is just make sure we stay consistent in this routine, add any lead sources or remove any lead sources that are necessary. And then we're going to do monthly review and quarterly review to see how we're tracking against our long-term goals. Some key metrics we want to look at are the number of days that we've prospected, the number of contacts that we've made, the number of listing appointments we've set, listings we've gone on, listings we've taken, listings we've sold, et cetera, et cetera. And again, bringing it full circle all the way back around to treating our business like a business. Every month and every quarter, we need to be reviewing our profit and loss, because that is the reason that we're in a business. And guys, in a nutshell, that is what, in my opinion, your first 30 days should really, really be focused on. And those are the activities I think that should be the most emphasized.
You want some water? You want some water, Spencer?
Man, I'm telling you, I feel like I just did a sprint, man.
No, I think you don't need to go to the. I know you already went, but you don't need to go to the gym now.
Right,
folks.
For sure.
This man is absolutely living it. I really want to make sure and stress that point. I know there's some late arrivals here, so make sure that you start from the beginning. So Spencer McDuffy absolutely crushed it his first year, his second year, his third year, just continual momentum going upward. So there's no doubt in my mind, as you kind of see the structure of his day, how purposeful he is. I think that would be the best, well, obviously hardworking and consistent, but with you, I see it more purposeful, because even before you got into real estate, you were talking about the podcast, and, you're doing your work, you're listening, you're getting into all right, this is what it takes. This, because clearly somebody has done it through these podcasts. I'm hearing it's happening. It's like that Roger Bannister 4 minute mile. He was the first runner to break through that barrier. After that, even high schoolers did. Prior to him, it was thought to be impossible. It's
Mm-hmm.
with the podcast, and as you were absorbing information, learning, researching. So you were very purposeful in your preparation when you got that piece of paper in your hand, which is a real estate license. You weren't just starting, well, what do I do now, and trying to figure it out. No, you were very purposeful in your preparation to get to that point. But once you hit that, you could legally, work in real estate. You absolutely hit that purpose. So you're not thinking, well, how many homes should I sell? No, you are, all right, these are the amount of homes that I need to sell at this price point, and this is how I'm gonna get there. So kudos to you. There's no doubt in my mind you're gonna hit 100 transactions plus this year. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. So here's one thing, and then I'll kind of turn it over to you, Spencer. The let's remember where we're coming from, or some would say even where we are now with the whole pandemic, right? And as soon as I said pandemic, the entire episode got demonetized. So this is how much I appreciate you, Spencer. We have
Okay.
the excuse. We can see it as an excuse. It's a terrible thing. Nobody is saying that it's not, but some took that as an opportunity because
Mm-hmm.
it you came into the industry, and as you were hitting your stride, boom, 2020 happens, right? So it's something
Mm-hmm.
that not only did you meet what you had previously done, but you exceeded and will continue to do it. So kudos to you, Spencer. As a quick reminder, follow him on Instagram. Also check him out on YouTube. I would link his YouTube channel down below. And if you want the blueprint with much more detail, I know that he was running a 4 minute verbal mile here in the past couple of minutes. But if you want the entire breakdown, make sure that you reach out to him. He has absolutely laid down the groundwork and has absolutely lived it and proved it several times over. So make sure that if you are either getting into real estate and are unsure what needs to happen, you reach out to him. If you're at a place where you think, well, I'm kind of doing pretty well, if that's your mindset, you still need to reach out to him, because there's always that next level. There's always that next level. There's some disciplines here that absolutely will help you, regardless if you're new, experienced, a million GCI producer. It can all work for you. I invited a new agent, another close to taking a test to watch. This right here is on the spot for any new agent. Thank you, Spencer. And was on your FISBO training, and your energy is awesome. So Spencer was
Awesome.
absolutely gracious enough to dedicate way more time than you probably should to your humble servant. And he did a specific training on FISBO. So if you're looking to dive deeper, he has the recording. So make sure that you reach out to him in the DMs there as well. He did a phenomenal FISBO training for specifically my agents and our guest. So make sure that you reach out to him. Don't reach out to me. I'm not going to give it to you. It's something that please reach out to Spencer. Spencer, I have been going on for 30 minutes, it seems like. So tell me, or tell the audience, what's something that we need to focus on outside of what we just covered that will absolutely help either the new agents or the agents that are stuck in their business right now.
Mm-hmm.
Leave us with some words of wisdom.
Man, I don't think I don't have anything that's like a magic bullet or anything, but I would say there's always one thing if you're looking to get out of a rut. It's talking to more people every day, building your skills in the way that you talk to people every day, and going on more listing appointments. The way that you get more listings is going on more listing appointments. If you want to take 10 listings a month, it's very difficult to do that if you don't go on 10 listing appointments a month. Although when you do start to get really skilled, you do start to take listings over the phone and via text message and stuff like that. But assuming we're not there yet, I would say this business is very, very simple. And when you stay super laser focused, the results tend to come back to you much easier than when you're scatterbrained, trying to work with buyers, trying to be a property manager, trying to be all things to all people. I would say leverage your time the best that you possibly can. I wanted to talk about administration and staff and transaction coordinators and hiring and assistants and all that stuff today, but we just didn't have time. But I would say focus on leveraging yourself as much as possible so that you can focus on the dollar productive activities, and then spend 100% or as much percentage of your time as possible on those activities so that you can get the results that you're actually looking for, and don't spend your time on the things that don't make that don't make you money. Basically, is I don't know if that was inspiring as I would have hoped it to be, but
The last, no, that's absolutely inspiring. So there's really no fluff in that. And that's what I really like about the information. It's and I think that's really one of the reasons that we get along so well. There's the talk to talk, but then there's actually the action, right? And
right.
really, I'd like to pride this channel that this channel is not the sizzle. If you're looking for the sizzle without ever getting to the steak and meat and potatoes and all that stuff, then there's other channels for that. This is actually practical advice that you can take home and make money, right? So if you want to get sold, if you want to go watch something that makes you believe, makes you feel that, hey, this is just good. This is just good motivation for me, and never put in the work, then you can go to those channels. However, when you come here, and I really appreciate you ending it the way that you did, you started off perfectly. There's no magic bullet. There's some principles. You covered those already, but then there's the actual action, right? You could be super motivated. You could have the perfect business plan, but if you never topple that first domino, then you're wasting your time. So
Absolutely.
Spencer, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Everyone, go check him out on Instagram and on Facebook.